Let's
Dang it,
do it, huh?
yes, we're live actually on time this time, which is really an odd thing for us to even say that we do on a normal basis. Actually,
I
show up
know.
on time and start on time.
I mean, it was only because I almost was late to getting into the pre-show, so we were like, ah, let's just push go.
I was panicking just a little bit as I was like, texting. I was like, dude, are we still doing this? You there? Hello, hello. No. First and foremost, obviously, welcome back to everybody for the show. It is the best of our week, episode 62. On this March 24th, I had to look at that, at 2022. It's another week, a lot of new things, a lot of information, a lot of things kind of announced. Somebody just won a prize, won a very, very astonishing, surprise.
Who saw that coming?
I didn't see that one coming at all, but I'm very happy for you, man. So we're going to obviously talk about, the massive surprise Mr. Juan Bagnell got recognized for. And of course, did you receive it yet? Or hopefully it's in the mail, I'm assuming? Or
I've got a tracking number, so I'm hoping it'll be here either tomorrow or maybe even over the weekend. But as soon as it gets here, I'll do like a little fun unboxing and setup stream or something.
Absolutely,
like that.
Absolutely. So I think this is going to be a fun thing. So what we're talking about obviously is if you haven't had a chance to see it, if you're not following, obviously make sure you follow Juan Carlos over on the Twitters and Instagrams and stuff. But do you want to give the info, or would you like me to continue the pitch? Because as I see it,
this one completely took me by surprise. I get this like urgent email from Qualcomm, and I'm like, okay.
Please
because I mean,
now.
Full disclosure, I've done some consulting work, some hosting work, and then I did the interview with the Snapdragon Sound team.
Absolutely, last year.
And it was like sort of early in the pandemic. We were talking about Snapdragon Sound before we really had aptX adaptive branding and the new chipsets were out. And so I get this panicked email from, not panicked, but I get this urgent email from the Qualcomm people, and they're like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? And I went, what I always do, try to take over the world.
The world, exact, Pinky.
They didn't seem to think that was very amusing. But they mentioned like, hey, as part of this initiative, we're really trying to focus on not just the manufacturer's story, but then also kind of the Qualcomm perspective on features and performance and things like that. And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm definitely down to chat. And they're like, okay, so what we're going to be doing is for some of the Snapdragon insiders is we're going to be seeding out some phones, and we were wondering if you'd already gotten your hands on the new Motorola. And I went, I have not been able to crack that nut since leaving Pocket Now. The last Motorola I got to use I mean I've played with some of their more entry level phones, but the last
surprisingly,
Motorola,
same story on my side.
Yeah,
I've never,
like the
I
Moto
actually
Ace and some of those
had
phones.
not once have I ever had a chance to play with their premium. It's always been their G series or more the affordable set. So and it's been about 6-7 years for me. So it was seriously like a brand new thing. So I'm glad.
I was made the same joke with the Qualcomm people. It was like the last premium Moto that I've played with had Moto mods, and that they did actually seem to think was kind of amusing. So they not only are sending out the new Moto Edge Plus, the one with the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1.
2022.
They also had a couple of other content creators that they were trying to kind of hook up. And so I kind of jumped on Kia. She's just a really fun kind of gadget conversation. And they're like, hey, so is there one that you would want to give away? And I was like, if she's on the list, let me send it to her. Yeah. So I also got to tweet that out today too. So it wasn't just like Juan's getting another phone, because it's not like I don't have enough phones. It was more like, oh, I also get to give one. This is the fun part, and it's getting to do kind of the contest thing without having to run a contest is really trick.
And not have to actually ship the phone, which is also kind of another great thing too. Logistics alone, but no, I was actually very surprised. So I didn't. It caught me all surprised because I didn't actually see your tweet first. I saw Aditya's response to your tweet first.
Gotcha.
Then from there, I went down the rabbit hole and I was like, okay, so I see how it is. And then jumping in, because Snapdragon Insiders has obviously always been an initiative. Last year they did something very similar. I got a chance to play around with the Asus edition version of the Snapdragon Insider phone, which was a one-off from what I understand. But now this year, I think they're focusing on working with companies, OEMs. Motorola, obviously, one of the well-known companies that is kind of stays close to stock and really tries to highlight
Yeah.
the power of the hardware. So Snapdragon sound, and obviously full disclosure as well, as you guys probably already know, if you've probably already seen the video, I have the device that he's referencing, although mine is a loaner from Motorola, so my time with this is pretty much at the end of it at this point.
Yeah.
But the good part about it, at least, is Juan will be able to also get a chance to experience, because Ready for me was a very, like, I was
So
surprised
this
of
was
what it
also
offered.
kind of the awkward part of it was, so I've gone through so many permutations of this video. As soon as I got my hands on your S22, I just started writing up some notes on my feelings on DEX, and I had it planned for the day after Mr. Mobile put out his video on
Oh,
DEX.
yes, sir. Yeah, he did that
And
about a
so
week,
I almost
or
just
two ago.
scrapped it. I mean, it was just like, again, okay, so if this is going to be the video that's going to suck all the air out of the conversation, maybe I just don't even want to do it. So I sidelined that video and I was like, no, what, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this video. Oh, I'm also going to be getting a Motorola, which has Ready for. So, I mean, the timing is like, there's no other time for me to make this video. And I need to also do a DEX versus Ready for comparison video. But it was just like, I did the Android 12 desktop mode. I've done the DeX video. I have to do the Ready for.
You have to do the Ready
video.
for. No, Ready for is very
it's gonna
surprising.
be pretty funny.
And for that matter, I feel like it's been the sleeper in this entire conversation, because I feel like we haven't had that much exposure to it. Not all Motorola devices are compatible, and even when they are compatible, not all of them are compatible with all modes of Ready for.
And I can't blame Motorola for taking an off year, because they jumped from the 865 to the 8 Gen 1. I think the semiconductor market and the component issues that we've been facing have made a smartphone strategy really challenging. Looking at what the global market is doing right now. So I get what I mean, the thing that I would tag Motorola on directly is better messaging on what their strategy is for potential consumers, where the Motorola name still carries some weight here in North America. It would have been nice to have had some communication from Motorola as to what was going on.
Yeah, no, but one thing they did focus on, though, with this launch, at least with the Edge Plus 2022, is how much Ready for is capable of doing and what we can get out of it. So that was a big part of what I was trying to showcase today in my video, was to basically just not necessarily as this is just hey, it's nice Android 12 desktop, I've experienced it, and the launcher kind of okay, oh look, they added a better app drawer. No. This is full on a very serious competitor, and actually even in certain aspects, even a better implementation than what we see in DeX. And I was hoping to show some of that in my video, and so weird enough, I have also a video for tomorrow morning going on, which is, since the thing about it is I have a very short amount of time with the phone. I've had it for a couple of weeks to be able to play with it, so I've had time to get a chance to get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But because it's a loaner, and also because it's a Verizon edition, I can't use it. Even if I do end up keeping the phone, it just doesn't work for me.
For sure.
Verizon devices, unfortunately. So I'm glad that you'll be able to do that. Yours, I'm sure, know, your perspective on that one. Mine is more feature for feature kind of thing, not necessarily saying, I think your video today, which by the way, that you pushed out, basically, DeX is a very powerful feature, but it needs your help. That was actually a very good video that you dropped today. So I'm hoping to see that continuation. And I'm glad that, actually we finally both got a chance to check out Ready for around the same time.
Yeah.
So I kind of jokingly put it in my video, the title in the thumbnail says, "Are you ready for?" It said. So I was like, it wasn't me trying to, put
the
drama.
first one that came to my mind was like, I hope Motorola is ready for a DeX showdown.
Yeah. There's so many things. The name is interesting, but
interesting is kind. See, this is a part of my problem with numerous companies. It was really my biggest criticism of LG. And this is something where I feel the conversation is made more difficult by sort of a half-hearted consumer presence in marketing and messaging. You want to call a crazy powerful feature like a desktop mode on your phone Ready for? okay, I get the sort of PR marketing, synergistic brand speak, paradigm shifting notion of what you're trying to accomplish.
Hmm.
That means you need to work even harder at making it a brand that consumers will understand. Because if
Yep.
I say Ready For as the product name, no one's going to know what that is.
It's a tough
People
sell.
barely know what DEX is. But if I say I plug this phone into a monitor and a desktop mode pops up and you can use your phone like a desktop or a
Hmm.
laptop, people go, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Phones are
Yep.
crazy powerful.
Yep.
So I feel like they're shooting themselves in the foot before they even really have a chance
It's just
to like
it's a
get the
I think
conversation going.
it's a tougher uphill battle because of the brand recognition. I think that's the big thing. Like you said,
Yeah.
Dex, not everybody will, but I think you're more than likely going to maybe hit a bigger percentage of people knowing what Dex is than knowing what Ready For is. From that aspect, that was my biggest thing, and that's why I felt like it was a big part of what the Edge Plus 2022 is. Although again, not
Yeah.
the only one, but this one surprisingly covers all the features of Ready For. Covers wireless, wired, and wireless to PC. So you have the ability of doing wireless to TV, wired and wireless to PC, and we can use next stock type of experience for a wired solution. So it is much more. I felt like more well-rounded, and it
Yeah.
is implemented as soon as you plug it into your computer. It's one of the options. It doesn't just say file
Yeah.
transfer or USB charging. Ready For. So it is definitely front and center, which I feel like Samsung's not very. It's not doing. I'm not saying they're not doing a good job. I'm just saying they're just not putting it
No, see,
forefront, and it
but
hasn't
but
been.
isn't this is a part of the conversation because I don't feel. I mean, obviously there have been refinements and a little bit
Mhm.
of polish and some feature improvements. I
Here
again
and there,
from
yeah.
going like S10 to S20 to Note 22.
Hmm.
Obviously, you can see some of the evolution that Dex is
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that we've seen
absolutely.
at Dex, but that's not to say that there's still not a lot of other optimizations that we could benefit from. I'm not the biggest fan of using a desktop mode on a phone on another full-fledged PC.
Hmm.
I understand the edge use cases, but I don't feel like that's a primary use of what these things can really properly represent.
No.
But if you're going to do that, the the setup process on DeX could be streamlined. That could be made more accessible. It could
More
be
straightforward. Yeah.
there could be better conveyance as to what those differences are when the consumer plugs their phone into a PC.
And
Right
what
now,
they.
you
Yeah.
kind of need to know what you need to know what you're doing
Absolutely.
first.
Yeah, yeah, and it doesn't automatically turn on. That was the weird thing. If you plug
Yes.
in your phone, a Samsung device, the first thing that comes up is screen mirroring, which is a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad
Sure.
thing. But to
Yeah.
turn on Dex, you have to manually turn it on. Ready For it, and I don't want to take too much of the thunder because you're going to get a chance to play with it. I know you're going to be
No,
like, you're
I'm
going to be
saying, but
like, oh
this
my
is
god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
this is what's
How I
exciting.
was. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, like we're so starved for any competition. I went back to my Honor again,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
for my most recent video, so he could show off the EMUI desktop mode from what was this like 4 years ago?
it's been for at
Isn't
least
it?
2017 or 2018 on it. This is
Yeah.
because this is the View 20. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So
no, it's
this is my other. I mean, outside of my LG phones, of course, but for a good, true, like real
head-to-head
desktop competitor,
Absolutely.
I gotta go back to a
So,
four-year-old Honor
and
phone.
the funny thing is, EMUI is still
It's
alive and
still
well.
great.
On Honor devices, they just call it Magic UI, and then on Huawei devices, it's called still EMUI. Obviously, with Honor, you're
Right.
getting be able to get Google services now. Again, you're able to do a little bit more than what you can, but the ecosystem is just it hasn't had the forefront exposure because again, Honor's been in the process now of reinventing the company. They're coming up, they're growing, they're doing a whole bunch of things. So
Yeah.
laptop cases with the Galaxy Tabs. Yeah, no, functional. The Samsung's approach to DeX right now has been more so pushed toward tablets. Or the thing that doesn't want to focus. Uh, next,
Kind of. Well, that was more. I think that was more Nvidia than my camera, but
it
that
always
still got weird.
okay.
Anyway,
Yeah,
it's
no,
fine.
no. So same thing for me. I did the same. Next stock has always been my go-to experience whenever I want to use, when I really want to use my computer as a laptop, because that's truly the best solution. It's the best accessory for any flagship smartphone that has a desktop experience, because at the end of the day, that's what it's intended. It's intended to leverage your processor, your CPU, your RAM, your connectivity, your storage, all of the things that you have on your phone, but give you the form factor that you typically are comfortable with on a laptop, and it launches them automatically. So Samsung does kick up DeX automatically if you plug that in, not on the phone, on the Nex, and Ready for does the same. But it actually, I feel like Motorola's approach to this is more functional. It's like it turns on, it says, "Hey, what do you want to do today? Do you want to use a desktop? Do you want to play games? Do you want to watch TV? Or do you want to just do you want to be able to look at your phone?" It's intuitive.
So good.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what Samsung is like. They just stopped a few years back and they're like, I think we're at a good spot. We should be fine. Motorola quietly did this, and they're really like, I think it's like a big selling point for me on a phone like this, because you can absolutely leverage the power of this device. And of course, it has a big battery. The next stock kind of leverages a battery inside, so your phone always stays on. So the launch story is, you'll probably obviously see coverage on both of our channels. We're both very, very excited to add functionality.
It's just kind of refreshing to play with a premium tier Moto in general, but to see Motorola trying to iterate on business grade productivity features. Is again, we need any competition that we can get for specialty phones. I do not believe the Moto Edge Plus is going to be a high recommendation daily driver average consumer. I almost threw up in my mouth just saying that kind of device. Even at the, because I mean it's on $100 price cut right now for a 512 gigabyte
variant of model. This. Yep. No, absolutely. There's no question. I said it also in my video. They're really punching way above their price point, and they're giving you a discount at launch. And totally Nokia land of doing $100.
Exactly. Yeah. I thought that was actually kind of funny too, because it's like, we see what you're doing here, and it's totally fair. Where I'm sure we're going to have some frank conversations about things like longer-term software support. We need to see what the lived-in experience of this is going to look like. Motorola keeps things really simple, so I'm hoping we don't see as many teething pains with like bug fixes and with security patches. But we're without an LG in the space, with every other international brand slow playing the United States, we don't have many other options that are going to be as readily accessible, that are going to have any kind of carrier path. I mean, Verizon is going to stock this phone. That is a huge deal to people on Verizon having any kind of Samsung competitor. And they've recognized one opportunity where even Samsung has been kind of slow playing their own advantage. And that's worth talking about. Now we can acknowledge that there is actually a competitor in this space. Whereas before, when LG left, I kind of felt like, man, we're done. Like,
it felt like it was, but I think it was, again, due to the fact that we haven't had a chance to experience Ready for in the format that it was available. Now, I still can't speak to how it was available prior, and again, not every device had everything in it. But the way this Edge Plus at the 2022 edition that we're going to have, you'll have a chance to play with it, hopefully tomorrow. They've covered all the bases. They've covered all, it like you said, and this can also play obviously on both. It could be a great thing, and it could be also a concern that you also want to keep in mind that we have a lot of potential, a lot of power in here, and how do you manage it, and how do you get things kind of running smooth and enjoy them, but still get the potential of running a computer experience, working, using your phone, leveraging all the power that you have in there. So very excited for that. And of course, if nothing else, even just the fact that get a chance to play with Snapdragon Sound. I'm assuming they're going to include also the Snapdragon Sound Buds, which
yes, they are. So I'm finally going to be able to get those earbuds. They've been driving me crazy.
My favorite pair on earth. I mean, there's some really heavy competitors. I'm not going to lie. The edifiers that I have a video coming up very soon.
Those very close. Are so much fun. Yeah,
they're very close. Something about the way the drivers and the balancing of the audio and the performance here are just very, and in active noise cancellation is amazing. Also, I love the fact that it's a click button, not a touch, so there's no false touching, false whatever. And anyways, long story short, I'm excited. I can't wait to see the content that you're going to put out. So really, really, really
Hey,
happy
same.
about that part. Yeah, no. And then for my video, like I said, it's more head-to-head competition, kind of like saying, hey, which one is whatever. And a little bit of a spoiler, obviously. I already think, I think Ready 4 is ahead. It has
Nice.
a couple of features that I feel like are key.
Yeah.
Specifically, well, anyway, I'll keep it in the video. It'll be up tomorrow. It's
Well,
like,
but I feel like no. I mean, it's okay. I mean, I'm not too precious about spoilers, and this is exactly the group of people,
oh yeah.
watching our stream right now that I think
Darren,
appreciate
yeah,
us
for sure.
getting a little into the into the weeds a
Into
little
the
bit
weeds.
here.
Yeah.
But I recently spent a little time with David Ruddock. He's doing the new Esper podcast with Michelle. And they had me on just because I'm like was one of the only people even bothering to mention the Android 12 desktop mode, the kind of built-in backbone service, which is sort of gross and it doesn't really work, but it kind of works. And the thing that I think I'm most the thing I'm most critically interested in for Ready 4's implementation is something that I mentioned on the Esper podcast. Because we as techies haven't really been evangelizing these kinds of features, I feel we're losing out on the specialty modes.
Okay.
Like, it drives me crazy that you can pick up a Black Shark or an ROG or a Red Magic, and why can't you plug it into your TV and get like a PlayStation style interface? I don't. The person who's interested in that phone probably isn't going to care as much about all of the productivity that a true desktop mode could offer. But how rad would that be if it filled the screen properly, the game played directly to that monitor without any type of letterboxing or cropping or anything weird, and you have that simplified interface. And because we keep kind of poo-pooing this concept. I mean, again, no one in this chat. I mean, I think 3 people are actually watching us on DEX right now. But in general, the techie conversation keeps stumbling on this. Well, it's not a perfect replacement for a Windows PC yet, so I guess it's not good enough. And instead, that's preventing us from getting into, like what you're talking about. I should be able to plug in my phone and say, hey, do you just want to watch movies that you shot, the videos from your camera? And we can do that. If I have a Vivo or a Sony, you know what would be pretty sweet? Is if I plugged into a monitor and I got like a Lightroom style interface to go directly to my RAW files and edit on that
jump in
larger
and actually
display.
do the work. Yeah, exactly. No, absolutely.
And we can't get there if we don't have techies evangelizing, if we don't have techies actually supporting these kinds of features. Instead, we got a bunch of people on the sidelines patting themselves on the back for not falling for those gimmicks. And instead, we're not going to get cool new features. We're all not going to get to eat steak anymore because babies decided they can't chew it. And that's the bummer for me. That's like the critical loss is all of the additional feature enhancement, functionality, the merit of owning a more expensive Android product is flying out the window right now while we all pretend that smartphones are really only as good as like $300 basic Android communicators because that's what the average people do.
Yeah.
And it's a shame because I think that's why there's such apathy. I don't believe we have a crisis of features in true Android. I mean, in Android land, in premium Android land. I'm happy to spend premium money on an Android phone, but that's because I have designs on using that to a much higher level. We're not inspiring people to try and use their phones to a much higher level right now.
No, I think that's the one thing that I feel like where Nextdoc kind of helps us champion that conversation. It's an accessory, or the entire ecosystem that it exists is to leverage the extra capabilities your smartphones can do. You know what we saw at CES, you know, with their next display, it adds additional USB ports, 4K monitor. It supports higher resolution outputs for devices that have that output. So I feel like it's the ecosystem is just not very well versed because, as you said, most people just don't talk about it. And I think in some of the comments, people were talking about it.
It's the bland leading the blind. Oh, see, I felt that in my soul because, you know, that's the thing. I've said this so many times on on our conversations and on other podcasts. We have a superpower. The fact that we're fans of this stuff, like we're entertained simply by the gadgets and then all the things that you can do on the gadgets. Like this is an entertainment for us. We're those nerds in the cafeteria at the dorky little lunch table off in the corner. We have a superpower that without even, I mean, like this stuff is just in my brain. Anyone who shows me one of their phones, I can make a decision in that moment. If I like that person, I can make them feel amazing about what they've purchased, or I can make them feel really crappy about what they've purchased. It all depends on the interaction I'm having, the day I'm having, and whether or not I like the person that I'm talking to.
And it
I
starts
like
with the
to
conversation
mirror.
always, did you know?
Hey, did you know that? But I like to mirror the energy that I get back. So I mean, I was hanging out with some friends. I mean, I mentioned this a while back. We finally got to see a couple that we haven't been able to hang out with since 6 months before the pandemic. So it's been almost 3 years since we've seen these two. They had gone from having like some cheap pixels to like really treating themselves during the pandemic to iPhone Pros. Nice. And you know what? They're just such sweet people, and they work really hard, and they're taking care of their newborn. And you're like, it is so easy for me to make them love their phones and show them all the things that they didn't even know that their phone could do, and really dig into like, oh, and if you've got this, you've got to check this out. Definitely look into this camera setting. You're gonna love this, especially once your kid starts walking, and you can take these little video clips. And you're like, by the end of it, they're just buzzing, right? If we can share that kind of enthusiasm or that kind of interest in the features that are bleeding edge, the people around us get it. I don't understand the techies online that have zero vision, that have they'll never put themselves out there. They'll never take the chance. They'll never take the risk. They always have to be on the right side of whatever was the most popular. And instead of really living this stuff, they're always the safe, conservative play. Well, I knew that feature wasn't going to work, and they got rid of it after 3 years of trying. And air gestures, those are just garbage. And desktop modes, that's a fad because you really want to have a better tablet, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, if your entire life is just defined by one or two companies' sales figures each quarter, that's a miserable way to live. And instead, you have to have your heart broken a few times, but I think it's so much more exciting to be way out there. Like, I want to know what the future is before the future knows what the future is. That's where I want to be.
Well, that's the exciting part. Like I said, that is why when I got the Edge, believe it or not, like literally when I found out that I was going to be able to get a chance to check it out, that was the feature I was literally thinking. I mean, don't get me wrong. I knew obviously that, this is Motorola's flagship. This is going to give you the best experience, so on and so forth. But the moment I saw that experience, to me, that like became more of a tunnel vision, and everything around it, like how the cameras were performing, the device was performing, the gaming and all that good stuff, that was just icing and just extra things that just made the cake look even better. So for me,
then it's an even more delicious cake.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's the cake that you got and you thought it was just one flavor, and then you cut into it and it's like a myriad of flavors.
It was a rainbow cake.
And it is absolutely.
It just looked like a plain vanilla sheet cake, and then I just got so much more cake.
So, again, cannot wait for you to get a chance to play with it. And the reality is, as we move on, if there was anything that maybe we can talk also about the fact that nothing had an announcement this week.
We should. We should.
And one of the things,
again, I'm choosing to try and find the excited buzz of this. I'm feeling like there's a healthy dose of skepticism.
Oh, absolutely.
But
I understand. Always, yeah.
I'm trying not to just go deep dive into cynicism.
No. We're gonna keep Cranky Juan off the table, off the menu. That's it. It is not on this show. Maybe another time in a different day. There'll be other opportunities, but the reality is, I'm very, very certain your excitement level is just going to be very high once you get a chance to play with it. So this is my thing. I was very much surprised with all of the things all the development, all the improvements that they've done, and how easy it is to use. Like how simple and intuitive it had actually done, where Samsung has just stopped. Samsung, like you said, you plug it in, you don't even know you have DEX. You have to look for DEX. And when you do get DEX, what can you do? What can't you do? What is it that you're trying to do?
Yeah.
All of these little things. There's no menu. There's no intuitive process. I do give them credit for the improvements of what they've done with DeX over the years. The version of DeX that we have right now on the Note 22 Ultra is fantastic. Gestures, swiping, minimizing, snapping windows, a lot of things that make perfect sense once you find it, right? It's the can you find it and then get it activated to get it there. But you know, one of the things, like I said, the Note 22 Ultra, and I don't even know where mine is. So mine, I'm still keeping it with a blue case. Has had some. I mean, we're not going to make too long of a conversation. Let's keep it tuned in. You're definitely going to be very happy, very surprised with things going on. So the video that Juan put out today, or was it early today or last night, right? On the Patreon last night? The DeX.
DeX went out today, and it went out public today. Yeah,
public today. Yeah, because I remember, I think I saw the email with anyways, if you haven't had a chance to check it out, Juan has his own Patreon. Runs around the r-android- glowing rectangles. And of course, he actually shares his videos a little bit early, so you get an early peek at the content before it goes public. So it's always nice I get those emails. I always get giddy. It's like a little surprise every once in a while. Like you never know when it's coming, but it always shows up.
Because I know YouTube's not sending out the notifications, but Patreon.
That's a whole podcast on its own for a different episode of the not the so best of our week kind of a conversation. But
that's a cranky TK.
Yeah, no, I've been so for me this week has been crazy busy. Last week was also crazy busy. I was hoping to put out more videos. I did not. I was literally leading into the Motorola video, and I stayed up really late to get that on because the embargo was like at 6 a.m. in the morning. So I'm happy that I was able to put that out. I'll have my other video for the ready for it before my time with it is ending. But I'm excited to see what you have and what you're going to be able to do. Luckily for me, which is because these I don't get to keep, I actually have a pair from last year, which the one that came with the Snapdragon Insider phone. So I've always really enjoyed these earbuds and what they've offered, and over time they keep just getting better and better. And then Motorola, literally, it's as close to stock as you can get. And some of that you're going to see inside of Ready For. That's what really, I feel like if there was ever an Android 12-ish desktop experience that could be right, Ready For may be it. So we'll see.
Stoked. And again, just from watching your video, it's like so many little teases that like, oh, I really need to try that. That's a thing.
The wireless solution, I was playing Call of Duty wirelessly on my TV. It wasn't the best connection. That was mostly due to my Wi-Fi, not because of the connection. Though. I was still actually able to play the game and think about just how how laggy like screen like Google screen sharing is. Oh yeah. Chromecasting stuff. Yeah.
I mean that's like one of the first experiences people might have with moving something off their phone screen onto a larger display, and most people are gonna stop at that because it's functional. But not really.
It's easy to do. It's simple, but it's where, like I said, it's the UI for Ready For interface says, look, what are you trying to do?
We've gotten some questions and some comments. Yeah. So again, the
Rage of
from Darren saying the Nothing launcher, and then also Mark Riley. Anyone think the Nothing phone will be good? What were your thoughts coming out of that? Not an announcement from
okay, I honestly, I went from, because there were a couple of minutes late. I went from
it was a hardcore me stutter. Like
I want to put it in the right words. I don't want to blah blah blah. No. Okay, when I went into the announcement, it was at 7 a.m. I think it was on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. Was it Wednesday? Yesterday morning, right? I think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Guys, it's already just been a day.
I know.
And I'm
like, for me, it felt like it was a while back. But I went into it thinking it was going to be a phone, obviously. So I like from all the leaks and everything, all the teases. The reality of the matter is, obviously, I'm very familiar with Carl Pei's style. Mm-hmm. We've had years of experience of watching him do his style. And it works. Don't get me wrong. It got people excited. There was no leaks realistically, and everything was in there. So I was really looking forward to hearing what they were going to do. The launcher looks interesting. It's
Yeah.
not exactly groundbreaking, nothing that we can't replicate today with a simple icon pack and a home screen. But I understand the philosophy behind it. The announcement of the phone, for me, felt like an Apple event. Like,
Okay.
we have this nice little shiny toy. We'll tell you, more to come on this a little bit later. And you wait months before you see it. But the way he ended it is where I realized what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
The and the disclosure he had to say specifically.
Mm-hmm.
This was a sales pitch. That this
It
was an
was. It was an
absolutely
investor
it
pitch.
was an investor. It's a call to invest in nothing. The way he started it at the beginning, talking about all the different partners and so on, we already knew about all these partners. None of this was new information. We've known, Qualcomm was invested. We've known, to a certain point, a lot of big names are in there. And then when he started talking about round B, then I started like, okay, wait a minute. This has a financial statement conversation going
Yeah.
on. And then the way he ended it, do as you'd like and, help us get to the story, blah, so on and so forth. The reality is that if there is an announcement in this summer for a phone, the phone already exists. This is not a phone that's going to be designed now after the investment. So that to me, I kind of started looking at it. You're just basically setting up for the excitement. I get it. But the way it ended for me, I kind of left me with the, okay. I think I forgot, was it English Dan on Twitter said, this could have been an email. I didn't feel like it was the first time I've ever watched something where I felt like an email could have been totally covering all these points.
So the only reason I disagree that it could have been an email is because I'm sure he's already done a couple rounds of investor pitches over,
I think this is all he's been doing. This is Carl's forte, building mystery and building suspense and his presentation style. And just for reference, I am not knocking his style. I am not saying the guy just he is an absolute artist when it comes to what he does. He has done. He is a big part of where OnePlus was able to get to, the way he was able to put the things together. But I think what we need to kind of is just realistically just curb our expectations and stop building it as the next biggest slices of, because the way he pitched it is like, phones are boring.
Yeah.
We all know that. Rectangles are boring. We know that. All of those things that he's been saying is things that people have been saying for years. And the reality is, yes, the ecosystem needs a jolt. It needs a new, fresh look. I think the ear ones from last year, although sounded great, don't really think that they're innovating and they revolutionized the earbuds. So it was just another pair that was unique.
They were good earbuds.
Yeah. No. And that's what I felt like. But I don't feel like they revolutionized what they were trying to do. And I feel like the phone, based on what we've seen so far, I don't feel like it's going to do that revolutionary system that he's talking about. Because if you notice in part of his conversation, it's still going to leverage other companies' ecosystems.
Yeah.
It feels like more.
It has to. Yeah.
Yeah, because he knows he can't take on Apple being the new guy in the room.
OnePlus had massive issues trying to fire up their own watch solution. There's no way someone going boutique is going to be able to ecosystem out of the gate. It's just not possible. But to add to what because I completely agree. I mean, I was sitting there with almost the exact same feelings you were describing, and I just kept getting these flashbacks of like Andy Rubin, Essential Phone. All these promises. Android this is not the direction that we think Android should be heading, and we've got these plans, and it's going to be about AI and making a whole new operating system and an ecosystem of other accessories that are all going to work together. And I believe there were some members of the Essential team that ended up over at nothing.
Yep.
So
it was part of the people migration. Yep.
It really, I mean, it just kept feeling to me like I've gotten this pitch before, and I actually disagree with some of this pitch. I feel this whole conversation about, phones have gotten kind of boring. I mean, look, it's the same kind of rectangle, only feeds into the Apple-centric conversation about what a phone should be. And a phone should be something that's not as powerful as an iPad, so you have to buy both a phone and an iPad. We've just accepted this as a truism in our community, but there are so many great examples of bleeding edge tech, of new features. I mean, sometimes you have to deal with something that's a little rough around the edges. But if you want to find novelty and excitement, there is novelty and there's an abundance of novelty
absolutely.
and excitement out there. But it's not just served to you in your lap in your most straightforward daily driver device. You just have to take a step outside your comfort zone, and it's all around you. I mean, we're actually flush with some phenomenal options and competition. It's just we've got to get over this like, oh, but I also need to have the most consistently polished, perfect, presented, mature version of the technology too, because you can't have both. You can't have the novelty and the excitement and the perfectly understood, familiar, mature ecosystem as well. And so I understand where he's coming from when he's making these types of grand, aspirational statements.
Non-specific, but yeah, grand,
but at the same
aspirational,
time,
non-specific.
I'm sitting in front of my Black Shark. I've got my Duo 2. I've got my Vivo. I mean, that phone has just been rocking my socks for camera tech. If I want something fresh and novel for camera tech, the Poco X4. I just shot a video for the Patreon talking about what a diamond in the rough that is for audio. It's a $350 phone, and there's not a lot of conversations about premium audio happening on our phones right now. I've got the Note 22, and just for shits and giggles, I've got like an Honor View 20 and an S10e and all of these other devices. I mean, like my desk could not be more diverse. And tomorrow I'm getting the Motorola. So again, I feel it's only if we believe that Apple's strategy for a smartphone has won that then we need the kind of disruption that Carl Pei is describing.
Yeah.
I am anxious because I think he's going to get run over by the hype train. I think we are building up nothing so that then it can become an object of mockery. And I don't believe he's playing...
He's building it up. He's building... Yeah, he's helping the hype train. He just keeps pushing that train going up.
Tech reporters need the fresh blood. They need the ink. They need the clicks. But they're not into the hype train because they are excited about Carl Pei launching a new phone. They're into this for the traffic and the monetization.
I see.
And it's going to be even better for them if this can't live up to expectations, so that then they can all pat themselves on the back for this is why you don't shop with boutique and startup brands and blah 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 blah. And I feel like Carl Pei's game worked so well during the OnePlus era because it was truly disruptive to our idea of what a premium mid-ranger should be. I don't feel this pitch can really work unless you do hit it with something fresh. But I mean, I've been playing with Pocos, I've been playing with Vivos, I've been playing with Infinix, I've been playing with Xiaomi and Redmi, I've been playing with Pixels. I've got a Duo 2, I've got a Note 22. I've got novelty, man. I mean, literally every $25 price segment of the smartphone market has something that is exciting to that one little slice of the market. And literally, like, you can almost go $25, $25, $25. I like this phone. Oh, do you have $25 more to spend? I like this phone. Do you have another $25 to spend? This phone's really exciting too. I mean, that to me is I think the critical misstep in the way that he's presenting this is I think he's trying to play a flavor of the same game with a market that is so much more diverse than when he got into it.
So just for reference, I just want to share real quick here the symbols that we saw from the Nothing announcement. So it's surprisingly the Phone 1. If we have, remember the Essential Phone 1? Let's not get into that conversation. Coming summer 2022, some type of a circular. I think there's an I that's sitting right behind him that we can't see it. There's a C. There's another dash. It's symbolic at best. And then of course we saw the launcher coming in April next month for specific devices. I'd be interested to see if OnePlus devices are one of those. Or even if it's only available on essential phones, which would be even funnier. No, I mean the way
That would
he,
be hilarious.
that would be epic, wouldn't it? They were like, launcher's coming next month on Essential One, and I'm like, really, the phone that nobody has? And if they have, it doesn't boot up. No, it's one of those weird. I take that back. I'm sure whomever has the Essential phone still probably rocking it. Here, like, oh hey George, hey, how you doing, man?
Yeah,
Mobile
what's
Geezer.
up, George?
I keep hearing the this boring talk about phones, but I still get excited every time a new phone that I acquire. Maybe it's because I'm old. No, it's, and I think to kind of echo what Juan was saying is the reality is there is excitement still in the ecosystem. I'm not gonna lie, my excitement level for Ready for on top of on Motorola right now is like a brand new toy kid candy store type of excitement, because it is so well polished, it is so there, and it is something that I just didn't even know there. It's like you find a new store at the mall that you've never been into, and it ends up being that anime store that you really wanted to be in there, and all your Dragon Ball toys are there.
And you thought it was just going to be some lame like Funko Pop
absolutely, yeah.
store, and then you go in, and you're like, oh no, I had it all wrong.
Exactly. So it's that type of excitement that I've seen there. Again, don't get me wrong. Once I heard the round B, when he said the words round B, right away I realized they've gone through 2 rounds of funding. Basically seeding, getting investors on board. So this is the second round that they've gone to. They've invested this much money, or they already have that much money, and they're looking for more investors. And the reason why it was done, this way is so that more people want to invest. Regular people like you and I want to be able to go in there and put their money in there. And don't get me wrong, whatever product they launch will have a lot of hype around it, building up. My hope is that it delivers and it doesn't kind of hit that wall that you're predicting in there, because I'm actually, in a way, I feel like it may end up being where we build it up so much that we feel like this thing should be floating in AI,
there's no product
and integrates into my brain.
Yeah. Literally no product can survive these kinds of expectations.
And from the logos
our
I'm seeing,
expectations are completely out of whack.
Yeah.
Where the biggest players in the smartphone industry have issues launching new phones.
Oh yeah,
New Samsung devices require months of patching. Even new iPhones require months of polish to really get the phone that was promised to you from the keynote.
Or even months for features to be available that was announced at the keynote.
So if that's the experience with a $3 trillion company, there is no way a brand, an upstart boutique brand like nothing is going to be able to launch a phone out the gate, really get it to consumers in any type of timely fashion.
And it's going to be super limited edition. It's not going to be available for everybody. They're going to try to play the same OnePlus game.
OnePlus can't even get a true pre-order out to North America.
Yeah,
Forget about nothing being able to fulfill orders on demand. This is ultra boutique, and so this is the reality of the market in 2022. 4 or 5 years ago, someone could have gotten the funding and made a run of phones and worked with investors, and it would have worked. I mean, we had an essential phone, we had OnePlus, we had smaller players in the market that could iterate. That can't happen anymore. The reality of this is, if you want to continue seeing boutique brands actually make it to market, you've got to put your money up front. I mean, this is exactly what I mean in saying, you've got to put your heart on your sleeve. You've got to wear it on your sleeve. You've actually got to entertain some of the risk yourself, because there are not many opportunities for boutique brands to actually try anymore. This market is very mature, and trying to convince someone to take a step away from what's familiar is a Herculean task. And unfortunately, now that means it's a money up front kind of task. It's a Kickstarter.
I was
the
about
only
to
way
say
that something like this is going to survive.
There is a good. Wouldn't it be funny though if on the launch event in the summer or whenever they decide to make the announcement? Because summer, by the way, the title summer, Sony has trained me, could mean so much. When Sony says summer of, could be it's a very loose term. I would be really surprised and like shocked if they actually launched it and they're like, and it's going to be available on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, and you could definitely put your money.
Indiegogo.
No. And no. As you were talking, I'm like thinking seriously, dude. That would be the best because they would be like, well, all the investment that we have, all the money that we got in, is to get us to be able to get to where we are now. Now we need you to tell us exactly how many people want this phone,
Yeah.
and we're going to put it on Kickstarter, and then it'll be available at the end of the year around Christmas
in
time.
a way, I kind of hope they do.
Well, I mean, don't get me. I'm with you, but okay. So here's the thing. It's part of it has to be also that they don't look like they're just trying to grab at money. There's the integrity of the conversation.
Yeah.
We know that they've released a product, and they were trying to tell us, we can finally tell you now that that was not our true mission. That was not really what we were trying to do.
Right.
X, Y, Z.
I don't want to
blah,
be
blah.
an audio brand. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Although you pushed for that very hard. At the end of the day,
it did have a little of that ring of big time YouTube tech reviewer holding up AirPods Max going, but I'm not an audiophile. And you're like, you made an earbud as your first product. You're an audio company. Congratulations.
If
you should just own that.
If you walk into a store and the first thing you see is a whole bunch of audio earbuds, you're gonna take I'm totally with you. And
I want to go Jeff Foxworthy on you, but you might be an audio brand.
The company itself, I think. Look, regardless of where it's going, I realize that Carl has a very specific vision into what he wants to do, and my hope is that he finds a way to make this happen. The approach that was going on, once I realized that this was more of a sales pitch, not necessarily an announcement, and that the launch are available next month for our regular phones, again, it's like, why would you again, a launcher doesn't change the core experience of your smartphone. So to imagine us getting special features from the new Nothing phone on our current phone is also something, like I said, you need to kind of curb the expectations, gestures and functions, all of that. So I'm hoping that they're going to be able to do something that will shake up the ecosystem. But for them to totally sideline Samsung and go straight for Apple in an announcement, trying to say basically that we are going to be also working with Samsung to make them work in our ecosystem, where Samsung's will be like, yeah, what do you think Smart Things is? Like what, chopped liver? We've been working on Smart Things for years. Like it incorporates already with Google, it runs, it does everything. But you're going to come in and you're going to fix our problem. So like, let's see how it goes. I'm trying to set my expectations low so that I'm actually able to be surprised. And I think most of us should. Don't let the hype train build you up. This isn't Twitch. If we're on Twitch and this was the hype train, definitely go for it on Juan's show. But for us, please, the hype train was doing well on Monday, man. Come on.
Yeah, no, that was really fun. Again, having someone to bounce the news off of was very refreshing for my podcast.
Not like that we don't do it here, but yeah. No, I get it.
Yeah, but again, with my format being like newsier and stuff, like we actually got to dig into a little more politics and stuff.
Yes, yes.
I think the reason why I'm in this kind of holding pattern that I'm in, I feel like, being enigmatic, building the hype, these are established marketing tactics. I mean, so I can't blame him for employing something that works.
Yeah.
It gets people talking. It gets people interested. It's the nerdy side, the techie side, where you got to give me something. If you're teasing this phone, just some hint or indication or clue.
Something, because
right now we got nothing.
Much to do about nothing, which is, I really feel like, is the title of this presentation.
Yeah.
Because we got not even a slide, not even a glimpse. We got hieroglyphics, for the lack of a better term.
And some launcher things that I feel like I can replicate with there's a widget creator.
Yeah.
Minimalistic text. Have you ever heard of minimalistic text?
No. I know which one you're talking about, though, the widget creator.
You can make word widgets. So, like, you make a clock widget out of minimalistic text, and it writes out the time, as like a full sentence. And you can do, like, weather, and you can do all these things. I used to rock that back during, like, the Note 2, Note 3 days. My home screen was, like, just 5 rows, and, like, web, social, calendar, email, and I had like something else, or like media player. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like each one of those had its own like specific kind of tap action and long press action. It's an ancient widget, but like I'll still pull it out from time to time if I just want to make like a more functional clock or weather widget and,
So I
and
used to
and pull that
use
out. Oh
KWGT.
yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely. I even
it
did a
did
video on them after the Apple widgets came out.
absolutely. So there is a plethora of functional things that you can do to replicate what the nothing again, but we don't really know all the other options that are available in there. That one thing that he showed us where he's saying, if you start like a clock or a stopwatch and then you go away, it kind of stays around. Yeah, that's been around for years. I can specifically point to it. It's on my Oppo Find X5 Pro because I
Yeah.
was using it when I was doing my speed charging test.
I also have a watch.
What? Wait, well, hold on.
Yeah.
You wear what? What the heck is a watch?
True
Is that new?
story.
Dot ma-
It's a timepiece that can be affixed to one's wrist that is useful for at a glance pieces of
Is
information.
that what
like,
this is?
That's
That what
you are. See, you just didn't even know. That's what it was.
I thought it was a
already.
blue light, dude. It has a blue light.
Yeah.
I use it at night. It
You
wasn't
had.
strong
I
enough.
mean, it can also be a 3 a.m. bathroom flashlight when you don't want to turn all the lights on in your house.
Or make sure not to step on the cat, but that's just my situation at 3 a.m. in the morning. But yeah, last thing you want is the
So
the whole family.
I mean,
gets up. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ultimately, I get to the end of all of this, and
mobile
I have to
sundial.
appreciate. I know
Simon,
mobile
Simon,
sundial.
Simon is just rocking it. Yeah, mobile sundial. Yeah.
I get to the end of all of this, and I desperately want there to be fun boutique competition.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of thirsty for a project like this to succeed, but what passes for success in the boutique space is not going to pass for success in the mainstream tech blog space. So even if this turns out to be a successful project, I believe it's still going to get hammered as a failure, that it didn't somehow magically crack into the top 3 companies sold in its first 6 months launching one phone, and it had a few bugs and it needed some software patches. What a laughable failure. And I think, unfortunately, our news cycle's just kind of primed for that right now.
Yeah, yeah. No, so here's it. There is a possibility that even if it does come out, and let's say it is a product like you said, it doesn't hit it out of the park. It doesn't really prove that what he said at the event that that yesterday, that this is basically the groundbreaking, ground shaking. Even as a failure, even if it does fail, if it does even half of what he's promising to do, is bring in the ecosystem, I think challenge and bring in the ideas and drop those little droplets of hints into other companies' creative minds to help us move forward. And if he has even money enough to allow it to go to a Gen 2 or maybe even a Gen 3, it's going to be that type of a challenge because of the uphill battle that he's trying to jump on. Again, he went into the room and he's looking at the biggest, tallest guy and he said, "You, let's go." and I'm like, okay, you got to realize this is different than saying that you're the flagship killer. Flagship killer is a quiet, slow, steady uphill. You build up, you get the fans around. I mean, OnePlus for the longest time, nobody knew who they were. And then now they're in every, I mean, again, and as you know, obviously with this morning's announcement, they're launching the OnePlus 10 Pro in the US. We're getting it finally.
Sort of.
It's coming.
I like that there's a holding fee for a pre-order to then buy the phone.
For $1,
So
you
you
could put your, yeah.
So you get to buy a promise ring to then buy your engagement ring to then marry your OnePlus 10 Pro. So that's
think
pretty. That instills a lot of confidence in their North American distribution.
The OnePlus methodology right now, or this year, is very much in I would say in a discovery phase. Discovery because what they were doing for years, which was working for them, is out the door, and we are now looking at a phone that was released 3 months ago, practically, in January was around the CES, and has been covered extensively by many people by just buying the Chinese variant of this. And now we're getting it to the U.S. market. So the question is obviously how do you make this fresh? So I feel like they're trying to figure out what will work, and I think we'll have to see how the acceptance is and how the coverage is going to be from everybody that already looked at it and said, well, this is just a color OS running OnePlus 10 Pro. I don't know if this is something you guys should be able to check out. So all of the people that put out videos, I would like to see how their new coverage is going to be. Are they going to contradict themselves? Are they going to go backwards on their words? Or are they just going to basically double down and say, you know what I said last time, it's the same. I'd like to see that. For me, it will be a fresh look. The only time I ever got a chance to play with the new variant of this was at MWC. They had it on the show floor. I got a chance to check it out. So for me, or even to actually hold a OnePlus 10 Pro, I haven't even had a chance to check it out prior to that day. So my hope is that by next week we'll see what other announcement, what information, and of course it's also going to come down to pricing. How is their pricing strategy going to be this year? Are they going to be fully over $1,000 on everything? Or are they going to try to curb it back and try to find some things? But
again, I feel like we're in good shape. Looking at the international market, I think we're in good shape when we can see a Moto that offers some hardware up and above the price of an S22 Plus. You get a storage bump and a RAM bump above what
at under $1,000. No, I'm sorry. At $900 really. At
$900, yeah.
They took a page from Google's book. They're like, okay, hold on a second. Let me show you what I can do.
And I still feel like the 9 Pro was, with the exception of not having DEX as a service, I feel like the 9 Pro was a feature-complete premium competitor above the tier of the S21 Plus. So I don't mind paying like $100 premium on a OnePlus over a Galaxy if we do see, like the faster charging, the higher resolution display, we got a different camera stack. The BBK camera strategy has been really solid.
That was one of the biggest things. The moment I heard about the unification of the system, bringing Oppo into the conversation is the best thing they could have done for their cameras. Everything else has already been kind of mishmash in the background for many years. It's not like brand new. But the fact of the matter is, having Oppo's camera system and Oppo's software run in the background is a win for OnePlus. This is the big thing that I feel like people are stuck on the whole, well, Oxygen OS is dead. Well, the reality at the end of the day is, what are you getting? Are you getting a better product? Yes. Are you getting a more refined product that based on more experience than just the team that you were working with before, but they're still there? Absolutely. And I think this is what we need to kind of appreciate. But I also will say that reviewing and looking at a phone that is made for a different market, specifically when I'm talking about the software experience, Color OS for China is not the Color OS we get in the international markets. Not only do they have different apps, but they're also and so to take that phone, it's like when I reviewed the Find N, when I looked at the Find N and I used it, I always explained the explanation that this is not a phone for us. This phone was intended for the Chinese market, that we are able to adapt to our market. And you have to understand that there are some apps that are there or not there that are not going to work. There are some things that won't work by just installing Google Play, the Google Play Store. But everybody that looked at the OnePlus 10 Pro looked at it as if this was the phone that OnePlus is trying to release in our market or internationally. This is going to be an international or global edition, so it will be different software. And believe it or not, there may also be some hardware configurations that may be changed in the conversation. We'll have to see. And how
it's not like we haven't seen those things happen before.
Yeah, regional configuration, yeah.
I mean, again, the topic is already dead on YouTube. The videos are already going to tank. The people who went out there and imported, a very region-specific flavor of the phone. I know PR likes to pretend that we don't watch videos from other countries, but some of my heaviest hitting videos have been on Vivos. So, I feel like that's a foolish strategy to try and pretend like we haven't been cross-pollinating this conversation.
Oh yeah, for years.
I'm holding up OnePlus as the piece of evidence that yet another brand is looking at the United States and saying, we'll get some phones there, but they're not a priority. They are way low on the list. Same thing with Sony. Sonys are selling like hotcakes in China and Japan. They're starting to filter through Europe more aggressively again.
Yeah.
We'll get them at the very, very end of the year once demand has been fulfilled everywhere else. OnePlus, They've been out for a couple months, and we're getting a very limited run batch of phones to satisfy this really staggered pre-order solution. I just feel we here in the United States, unless we do honestly start embracing competition and not just giving it lip service, we're increasingly going to fall behind the rest of the world. And I mean genuinely fall behind. If you pick up a Vivo is not a label that should be going head to head with Galaxy S Samsungs, and yet they are. It's shocking to see how little crazy new exciting tech is coming to our ultra premium devices, like over $1,000. I feel like we're going to continue to slide and miss out on fun stuff if this is the way we're going to play.
But what it's doing though to us in the US as far as the market side, we're really pretty much left with Samsung, Apple, and Motorola. Realistically,
yeah.
Oh, and TCL. I'll take that back. Well, Google as well. What I meant to say is like from the aspect of like when Sony does this, when OnePlus, where they're able to be at carriers, and obviously we've seen them, they're able to put devices in stores. Going into this strategy, Sony going into this strategy, which obviously they're not in the stores right now. They used to be, hopefully at one point again. Samsung is the only one releasing phones internationally at the same time as us in the US. Apple does the same thing. OnePlus is obviously now with the new system. Motorola was, again, with the Edge Plus. This was something, again, unique to the US. There is a different variant, by the way. This was not the same. It was released as under the X30, if I'm not mistaken, in India. So it's a regional variant of that. So we had the Edge Plus 2022. And then you get Pixel with Google. Those are the only 4 companies that are still officially launching here. TCL, again, more so focusing, again, more European, as you talked, because this year we only got 2 variants so far. But the rest of the ecosystem, the TCL 30 series, is going to the international market. Asia, Europe, Middle East, they're specifically regionalizing their devices and focusing on what makes sense. So I don't know. It's a tough... I feel like our conversations and us championing these type of other devices, other markets, Vivos, Oppos, Xiaomi's, Realme's, Redmi's, Black Shark, all these devices that most people that are, if they're in the US and they haven't watched our show before, they're like, what are they talking about? Yeah. Right? Like, what are these devices? Can they do what I can do? Do they even boot up Android? Type of a conversation.
Can they even Twitter, brah?
They don't tweet, my friend. You write the message on your phone and you throw the phone to your friend. That's how they get it. It's concerning. I'm concerned because of the way. It's
very concerning. Yeah.
It's a very shift. It's a dynamic shift that I think people are not paying attention to. But again, we get companies like Nothing walking in here saying, move aside Samsung, move aside Pixel, all of that. Let me go straight for the head honcho because they feel like Apple is the de facto mobile experience and that's who they have to fight with. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know, man. Maybe you should check out the stores. There are other brands in the room. So, what kind of iPhone is a Vivo? It's an iPhone 5. IVO, so it's the 5 with an IV. That's a 4.
Yeah,
so
it's Roman numerals.
The 0 is silent, so it's 54. So it's the iPhone 54 just released ahead of time. So if you want the iPhone 54, get the iPhone
I would like
Vivo.
to change the subject just ever so briefly because this just popped up in my news feed, and I'm going to try and screen share without completely nuking my setup here because that's always fun.
Oh yeah, Monday was fun. Monday was definitely fun.
I know. I kept trying. He was like, "Oh wait, no, this is broken."
There was like you had to switch us, put it back, and bring down and do shaking. Go ahead.
Because you and I are both Sony shills.
Absolutely.
I feel like you would appreciate this that just popped up on GSM Arena. PUBG.
Oh, I saw that. Yes.
Sony Xperias as the official smartphones for 2022 tournaments.
My two favorite games on mobile.
the official esports phone for PUBG is going to be Xperia 1 and Xperia 5.
I am so pumped.
It's the perfect esports phone. It's practical, it's to the point, has great
wide,
power management
wider
features,
landscape experience. You get way more view, way more
great controller
experience.
support.
Absolutely. 4K 120 hertz. There's a whole bunch of things to be said, but this is exciting for me. So they've had the Call of Duty collaboration for years, and I've always appreciated that. There's to this day actually they still hold the monopoly on a specific mode when you want to play Call of Duty. If you want to play it at 90 frames per second, it has to be done on a Sony. It doesn't work anywhere else.
It's crazy.
So that game. How
do you even pronounce that game's name? It's just so confusing because there's like not another vowel. So is it PUBG? I don't even know how names work because I can't. I review phones, but not really.
Yeah.
What did I shoot this on? I shot it on a Sony Alpha A7S III. Why? That's totally easy to say.
Because that makes absolutely sense. But yeah, no. Yeah, speaking of Sonys, I've acquired, if you can. I told you I got the 6400, and of course, when you get a camera, you need to get lenses. So yeah, now I'm on a bad path, man. I'm already two lenses in, and I'm already eyeing my third. That new Sony lens that that just got announced.
You're already doing that Dave Chappelle. Yeah, you got any more lenses?
Yeah. Which OSS? What? E-mount, baby. Yeah. Let's mount that. Oh crap. Okay. See, with that being said, Aditya. Yep, Aditya is right there. Yeah. Every time I say something that could be mistaken, Aditya's like
he pounced.
See, I didn't even have to blink. I should have just no. So yeah, very exciting to see that. I saw that on their because I follow them as well, so I saw that it was like really exciting to see. We have a similar esports contest, the game like Mobile Legends, sponsored by Realme. So yeah, Mobile Legends is actually very big. Honor used to do real esports. I even actually they invited me back in the day with XDA to Paris for an esport competition using their Honor. I want to say the Honor View 10. It wasn't the View 20. It was about a year before, and it was literally like a competition. They had desks. There was live streaming. It was sponsored. It was like really exciting to see. And to hang out with the team. So gaming on smartphones is so much more exciting and so much more fun. This is why, like I said, why I want better solutions on thermal management when it comes down to the 888 and the 8 Gen 1, because these, and you'll get into it, obviously, I reached some interesting thermal temperatures on this when I was playing because Motorola,
I don't doubt it because something tells me Motorola's not playing any games with pre-throttling apps. No. You're going to get the full 13 to 15 watts of power draw off of the 8 Gen 1.
To this day, with the amount of 8... I've had my hands on 8 Gen 1s more than enough. I'm not going to say this is just like the first one. I haven't had one cross 120. So I hit 120.
I mean, 120's already like, wow, that's hot.
Yeah, I was like, it was like, don't get me, most of the time I've seen like with the 888 and the 8 Gen 1, like 115, 116. But this was like 119, 120. And I think if I kept gaming where they're supposed to put the phone down to try to take on, and mind you, of course, I was playing Undead Horde. So there's obviously, you have to understand, I had it on full settings, and I was getting my butt kicked by all of the different villages I was trying to invade in there. So to me, it wasn't even a big, I didn't even get to the advanced sections. So long story is, we need better thermal management. I feel like there has to be a company that goes out there and starts putting cooling systems for smartphones. We need that ecosystem to leverage the 888 and the 8 Gen 1.
I keep looking back at just how ridiculous the performance scores were. The last one I got to play with was the Red Magic 5. And like the fact that it actually had that silly little fan built into the phone, and this is before we even got to the 888. That was a Snapdragon 865. And the 865 was an amazing performer, and giving it some active thermal cooling hardware took it to another level. I mean, there were 888s that fell behind that Red Magic simply because you could run it a lot harder and not
And
have to
much
deal
long.
with the phone.
Oh yeah,
melting
no,
down.
absolutely. Long gaming sessions, and you're literally only throttled, not throttled, limited by the battery if you weren't
Yeah.
charging and obviously running things.
So I do
Nope.
real quick just want to throw a shout out because they just jumped in. We got Bionic Scoop and we got
Hey,
Easy.
Scoop.
We got Eric, Easy Computer Solutions in the house too.
Kevin.
Thanks for dropping by, gents. Always glad to see your names popping up in the live chat. But
Nice,
so
nice.
yeah, I mean, just for our folks who do the sort of international measurements on things, like once we start seeing phones climbing over 50 degrees Celsius, that's toasty. That's getting real toasty. And I've seen a handful of like some hardcore gaming tests where what was it, the Xiaomi 12? I can't remember what channel. Someone please put it in the chat. Someone got a Xiaomi 12 up to, I think it was almost 60 degrees, 60 degrees Celsius on a gaming test, and you're like, that's 140 degrees Fahrenheit. That's insane to hold in your hands. You can't.
Wow.
You would not hold that in your hands. And that's what we're looking at if we really let this SoC go and we're not doing any type of performance management and it has full
I think
access to that battery.
I think we have consensus. It is
Well,
tech tablets.
Tech Tablets was doing one. This is a smaller creator than Tech Tablets, and I think the only reason why I'm calling back to this specifically is because I think this was one of the gentlemen that also did a direct head-to-head between the iQOO and the Xiaomi, and he literally showed what my anecdotal experiences were. My anecdotal experiences are this phone spikes and crashes, spikes and crashes. The iQOO sets a performance limit. Like it really doesn't let you get over 60 frames per second on many games, but because it's not letting you spike above 60 frames per second, you end up with almost a perfect consistent 60 frames per second as opposed to the spike crash, spike crash, spike crash. And in one of his tests, I can't remember the channel name now, in one of his tests, I think that the Xiaomi got up to like 58 degrees.
Are you
And
talking
just
about
something
Technic?
unbelievable.
Is it
It might have been Technic. It might have been Technic. Thank you, Darren. I'll look it up and I'll try to add that to the podcast show notes later. I've got it saved somewhere in my Gmail because I emailed it to myself because I said, "Ha, that's stupid." But I just like I'm having such a hard time with this gimmicky conversation about phones that only do phone things. The 8 Gen 1 is actually kind of an amazing piece of silicon considering the iteration on the smaller 710 core and 510 cores, what the Cortex X2 can really do. But to me, this looks more and more like the kind of chip I would much rather have in a Windows on ARM kind of
Yeah.
solution. Like
Yeah.
if you can give this thing active cooling and you can let it draw, a consistent 15 watts, then you've got a solution that's competing against Core i3s, Core i5s pretty easy. Like it's really good. I'm having issues with the way that we're trying to utilize this in a closed up, sealed, water resistant, big battery, big screen smartphone kind of environment because I don't know that we can adequately cool what the chip can really do. So now we've got to play games with how the chip manages its own power management and thermal throttling.
Yeah. No, and different OEMs are some companies are addressing it, some people are, some companies are not. The Xiaomi 12 Pro, I mean, definitely can run hot. I was surprised actually he was able to get it to that level because I didn't actually get it to cost 120. Moto. So I had an idea that Moto could be pushed, and I realized Moto can definitely get warmer than the average phone can get warm.
Yeah.
But when I hit that 120, it was actually uncomfortable for me to play. That was the reason why I put it down. When I realized it was actually getting to the point where I was uncomfortable. And the phone that I got didn't have a case. I've in the past, I've advocated for, with the 888 and the 8 Gen 1, I've always wanted to say, like, these phones need cases. You need something to separate your finger from the actual device to allow that temperature, the dissipation of the heat to go to do its course without making it uncomfortable. This one on the display became so warm that I actually put it down to take the measurement. And when I saw the number, I was like, whoa, I have not had one phone go to 120. So 140, he was ready to cook.
He was cooking.
It is, but it's
That's insane. I mean, and think about it. The Snapdragon 810
and I
used to
but
cause soldering to fail.
yes. So
It
the
ran
eight, I
so
remember
hot.
the eight. No, absolutely. Yeah.
The HTC One M9, I don't believe ever got up to 60C. I
Oh
don't think it
man.
ever got that hot.
No.
I mean,
Even
we're
with those, yeah, I don't think we were talking about 60. It was
we're
still.
we're in another tier. This is a completely different universe of
I
performance to where we were on the
No,
810.
no, and I think if I'm not mistaken, Technic was benchmarking it though. He wasn't running it on. It wasn't an app that he was running on his phone. I mean,
It
it
might
was
have
an
just
app,
been
but
a CPU,
yeah. No, I
like
think that
literally a CPU throttling
he was
test. It might have
in the
been that.
testing that he was showing. He was doing through different level layers. But what I'm trying to say is, for me on the Moto, I was actually playing a game. This is something that we would
Yeah.
probably be doing. Like Genshin Impact and Undead Horde have the ability of pushing a device to whatever limit it has thermally. I didn't even install Genshin because I'm no longer gonna, because I already know what Genshin's gonna do. But I really wasn't expecting Undead Horde to push it to, to that. So, long story short, it surprisingly wasn't tanking the performance. The game wasn't stuttering. I didn't lose frame rate. I wasn't
Oh.
having any issues with stuttering. The phone still functioned, but I couldn't hold the phone. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it became like I should have a case. I should have it on a tripod or somewhere, or even actually, believe it or not, a better solution maybe even just plugging it into another monitor, using a Ready for, and using
Yeah.
a controller with it. That may also leverage some of the temperatures.
You know what? I kept saying, like, okay, well, the Samsung version of this is going to be like this, and the Xiaomi version of this is going to do that, and the OnePlus version is probably going to be performance limited too.
Oh yeah,
I really think we're coming down to Sony. I need to see what Sony's going to be able to do with HS power control and their power management features,
with
and
the
see, like,
888,
if
yeah.
we can take the battery heat out of the equation. Because one of the things that's contributing, it's not the main source of heat, but one of the things that's contributing
It's the power draw.
is the power draw, and then the battery is having to discharge so aggressively. That is adding a couple degrees to the inside of
Hmm.
your phone case. If we can bypass the battery and we can fire on HS power control, and the USB-C cable is just being used to operate the phone with
Has
kind
to.
of a
Yep.
trickle charge state to the battery, if
Hmm.
we can save a couple degrees there, is that going to be enough to give us a more reasonable power performance balance, and let us game on a phone where it doesn't get uncomfortable to play a graphics intense game after 5 minutes? That I think is going to end up being probably the truest test of the 8 Gen 1 in 2022 for
Hmm.
any kind of like mainstream smart. I mean, there are going to be specialty gaming phones that have all different kinds of like wacky control features. I'm sure there's going to be another Red Magic. The Red
Oh
Magic
yeah.
7 is already out.
So there's a
So
7 and a 7 Pro, but the 7 is the one
so
that's coming out internationally first.
so there are already exotic solutions, but if we want the sealed up, water resistant, traditional, sleeker phone form factor, I think it's going to be Sony's game. I
Hmm.
really don't know of anyone else who has lived up to that kind of claim for battery longevity and power management in a
Yeah,
phone.
the one Mark III, the Pro I, the one Mark III and the Pro I are definitely a great, and the 5 Mark III were also very good examples of that last year. It was a balanced experience in a good level. And I honestly want to say this is, and it may not be a popular opinion. Any phone that throttles at this point, like, and I'm specifically speaking to Oppo and to OnePlus, because since OnePlus now adopts the same ecosystem, I honestly don't think there most there are going to be that many situations where we will need to turn on full power of the SoC to get the benefit of our devices. I think we have reached the point that 90% performance of the 8 Gen 1 is literally more than you need on a daily basis
Sure.
for anything and everything that you want to do. Even if you're going to think about processing and pushing out content, because the reality of the matter is we are way ahead of what we need hardware wise to
Well, and
render video.
developers aren't taking advantage of.
No,
Like, we
but
don't have apps that are struggling to keep up with Snapdragon 855s.
And this was again, this is from the 855, even before the 845. The reality is the performance the performance that we get is always way more, and we keep getting sold on the idea that every year we need more and more performance. I think it's really more of the refinement, the better tuning, the performance enhancement. Again, like you said it, I think a few shows back, maybe having an off year, not necessarily introducing a new
refinement
SoC.
year,
Yeah,
yeah.
a refinement year. I think those are the things that we need, because the way we're going right now, if on the 4 nanometer we're doing this, what are we going to do when we get down to the 3 nanometer and we're trying to push more power out of a smaller, the ecosystem
Well,
is.
see, what's frustrating is the die shrink should be giving us better efficiency.
It should.
But we're die shrinking and then significantly boosting performance in the power draw.
Yeah.
And so we're not only not getting the efficiency bump that we should be seeing, it's like we're eating into territory that we didn't really have room to eat into on the
And I
previous
don't even
generation of
think we
SoC.
needed to. This is the thing. I don't think
No.
we really even needed to.
And now that we're getting to this point, the whole BS nerd, clutching of pearls when Google announced the Tensor. I mean, the Tensor benchmarks just aren't stacking up against the 888. I mean, it is just not as performant a chip. It's just not going to be able to hang with more intense use. It's just really a shame. Tensor is it should have come out the year before. Google isn't going to be. I mean, this is all BS. The practical, real world solutions. A Tensor completely unmanaged is outperforming easily what Samsung was doing with an 888, throttling it with their blacklist. All of that was fake. It was fake techie outrage from people who have never stressed their phones, that have never performance tested their phones, have only fired up a Geekbench. I ran Geekbench 12 times in a row to see how much it throttled. Tells you nothing about really using that phone. And so now I pick up a Pixel 6 Pro, and it is wonderfully performant. I pick up a OnePlus 9 Pro, and the most recent software updates have really cleaned out that performance. And I occasionally will throw it into maximum energy mode, like when I want to cut a quick video and I want it to render really stupid fast, and then I tap on the nag screen and I put it back into lower power battery mode, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And so all of this nerdy techie, these claims of like, well, I mean, we just don't see the performance, and like, you're not doing anything performant on your phone.
No,
The numbers are fake.
We don't all sit all day long running Geekbench and hoping to get a better score every single time we run it. And like I said, this is why when we were talking about Technic, it's more about there are certain things that you have to kind of understand what you expect and what you use your phones for. The 8 Gen 1 as a processor is throttled, I think, is a good experience, and with the exceptional, like you said, you need to you really need to hit the pedal to the metal, turn that on, let it run on its own. As you're done, and you move on. But I think honestly, for games, on the Moto, I did not even touch performance mode. I don't want performance mode to be turned on anything on this, because I didn't need it. I didn't think the phone needed. There was nothing in there that was going to benefit from having a toggle to tell me performance mode on a phone that was running at a 120. I'm only imagining how much hotter I could have gotten at one more day if I had performance mode turned on. And again, PUBG was able to push it that far. Call of Duty was able to push it that to close to 120, and that shouldn't be the temperatures. So
and genuinely, this is where we need to start having conversation, big boy and big girl conversations, just like we do with gaming laptops and even consoles. I mean, like, we have a certain expectation that you're going to fire up a console, a modern, cutting-edge piece of hardware that lives behind your TV. And if you turn on all the eye candy, you might be gaming at 30 frames per second. And that's the choice you're going to make. And if you want to game at 60 frames per second, you take a tiny, minor hit to the visual fidelity, and then you get more frames per second. And I love it. Like, there are gaming phones that have like 144 hertz displays and 165 hertz displays. And I can't think of any games that your phone can really sustain and max that out. And I mean, even older titles, like I love Riptide Renegade. It's still my
Oh
favorite
man.
racing game on Android. I don't think I've ever seen a phone really push that above 120. Even with all this fancy, crazy, awesome hardware, it's like it's locked right in there. Most of the games I play, if I can hit 60 frames per second with the visual fidelity that my phone can sustain, then I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
It's nice. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's really nice when I can fire up Dead Cells and get over 90 frames per second, because that little platformer really does the twitchiness of being able to play Dead Cells at a faster frame rate. That helps. Same thing with a COD Mobile or a PUBG. Like, it definitely matters for the twitchiest elements of that gameplay. But if I'm playing, real strategy game or tower defense or like 60 frames per second, I'm doing fine. And we acknowledge this with gaming monitors, and we acknowledge this with gaming laptops. Asus makes different pieces of hardware for literally different kinds of games. We need to be able to have those kinds of conversations with gaming on phones too, and move beyond just the CPU melting visual fidelity of Genshin Impact, and then you play a round of COD Mobile, and that's your whole gaming conversation for Android. There's so much more to consider in there.
many aspects to it. No, I'm with you, and I'm sure we'll be able to cover this. We'll talk more about it as time goes on, because this is the beginning of 2022. This is the weird part. We're barely almost at the point where Q1 is over, and it looks, at least at this point. So I'll say this: I'm looking forward to seeing what OnePlus is doing on the 10 Pro.
Yeah.
Mostly because I haven't had
fun.
a chance to play with it before. So their experience from what we see in last year with the 9 Pro, I want to see the evolutionary change. Not necessarily maybe on the camera stacks and so on. Again, a lot of that information very similar. But the point of the conversation is, how are they managing the 8 Gen 1? Is it more, or is it the same? Is it more different? Is it closer to what Oppo's doing? Because Oppo's doing a decent job also of cooling it, but it does definitely get a little bit warm. I feel like the ceramic on the Find X5 Pro helps a lot more on the cooling than as traditional the materials that we're using. I feel like even the casing, the back casing of the phone needs to be more thought for, or basically well designed to allow dissipating the heat, or also even pull in more cool air from the outside to allow it to cool the system. So,
I just have to, because I know Simon Says Hypno is making a joke. He writes, so you guys prefer stability over unfettered power. I'm reporting you all to the N22 police. No, it is not what I'm saying, Simon. What I'm saying is I want both under my control. So when I want
like driving a car.
stability,
You want to put it in the shift you want.
95% of the time, that's what I want. And then when I'm pushing render on a video and I absolutely want it to just crunch that video as aggressively as possible, I want it to matter that I pushed super hot spendy battery mode and that it really does it. And then I go back to totally regular social media browsing mode.
Turn sun mode off, basically.
And exactly. The nuclear option has been disabled. The biggest problem I have is I don't want an app to slow down before it's really had a chance to hit the system. I feel performance management makes more sense when it's sort of thermal based as opposed to blacklisting. And I just want control over that button. If I could put all of my social media apps on the lowest power cores and my video editing on the medium cores with a toggle to say when render use X1 core, if I could just have those if then else statements, I would be brilliantly happy. And I understand that most average consumers aren't going to mess with that. Let them go full autopilot. I don't care. I am buying stupid expensive phones. I am a power user, so I want those giant levers for power and battery.
Yeah, no, and I think this is my hope is that we're going to see some solutions in that realm, hopefully, as time goes on. Because again, it's still the beginning of the year, and we still haven't even seen what the 7 series and the 6 series are going to start.
Sebastian in our chat is actually secret police, secret N22 police. All this time we've just been giving away all of our
Geek Bench squad. Scrapers. Oh my God, it is.
Trapped,
It's
foiled
yeah.
again
We
by those virtuous benchmarking services.
it is. There are certain things I think you need to be understanding and how things are and operating. So, one thing I did get a chance to mention is that it is the Edge Plus is a 144 1080p panel, which was also
Oh,
an
okay.
interesting. So there is some interesting approaches. Motorola's trying to put in there, going with a slightly faster panel than
Yeah.
QHD, but I think 1080p. But it has auto mode and 60 frames per second for locked, which you can actually use to hopefully lower some of the requirements on the system, so you
Definitely.
don't have to push it. So,
Again, I mean, it's looking real solid. Like,
mhm,
Moto has a sweet spot targeted against phones like the S22
mhm,
Plus. And I think that's the perfect territory to kind of strike out a more phone-focused experience that also has some power user features on it. It's
mhm.
not hyper premium. It's not super exotic. It's at the high end of what I think a daily driver experience should resemble, and
Hmm.
it's got a few fun features that make the experience unique.
Yeah.
And I think that's the best place to target. No one is buying ultra super premium over $1,000 Android right now. That is such a small niche of the overall Android sales figures right now.
No,
And
no, it
so you've
rightfully
got your
so.
you've
Yeah.
got like sort of your crown jewel phone. That's exactly the territory where I think it should be. You can kind of pick and choose some of those
Hmm.
features. Some phones may be going higher resolution, more like a OnePlus. But even the OnePlus 10 this year feels more like a lateral move over the OnePlus 9.
A little bit
It
more.
doesn't
Yeah.
on paper. Obviously, this experience changes when we'll actually have phones to play with, but on
Yeah.
paper, it looks more like taking a few parts and swapping them,
Hmm.
not every part got an upgrade. Because going from OnePlus 7 to OnePlus 8 to OnePlus 9 felt like a steadier march
Hmm.
of tangible improvements to major features on the phone. And going from OnePlus 9 Pro to OnePlus 10 Pro kind of feels like this one part got more expensive, so we saved money on this other part. And it's not necessarily an overall better phone,
Hmm.
but some things will be better and some things will kind of be the same. I mean, if you're on a OnePlus 9 Pro, you're still on a screamer of a
Oh,
device
absolutely. And
anyway.
I don't think
So,
the 10 Pro it should be marketed to the 9 Pro users. It's
no.
very much at the 7 and the 8 at the
E-
latest. The
If you're
reality.
on a OnePlus 8 Pro, I'd still say you're probably fine and you
Oh,
can probably
maybe
ride
the
out
11. Yeah, yeah, no,
the
no. So the
10
6 and
Pro.
the 6 and the 7 realistically
I think
then.
I think exactly that. I think the OnePlus 10 Pro looks like it's making a lot of sense if someone was still on a 7 Pro or a 7T.
Mhm.
Like you like that kind of OnePlus performance experience. The software updates are going to start thinning out for the OnePlus 8s, but I feel like that upgrade. I know so many people who in the OnePlus community, you still see so much conversation around OnePlus 6s and OnePlus 7s.
Mhm.
And I think the OnePlus 10 is the phone to maybe start looking at like, well, what is my upgrade path if I don't want to go Samsung or some other manufacturer and I do want to stick with this?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is the phone that I think you would maybe start considering.
My I was talking to my brother earlier today, and he was still very happy with his 7 Pro. So he's like, because I told him, hey, do you want to try to maybe upgrade to the 8 Pro or maybe go something maybe 9 Pro? He's like, no, I'm here, I'm good. The 7 Pro
It's
still
the
does.
OnePlus 8 Pro's main camera sensor is so good. That's where I'm kind of like, it would still kind of feel like a lateral move. You'd be trading extra power for extra battery draw. The ultra wide
I
is
think.
probably more fun on the
Mhm.
OnePlus 10 Pro from what I've seen, but you've
Well,
got
it was kind of
the
like what we saw with the
faster
9 Pro. Yeah.
you've got the faster, higher resolution display on the
Hmm.
OnePlus 8 Pro still. The design is still OnePlus pretty. The performance on that 865 is still phenomenal. I mean, I think it's a tough call even at 2 years. I know I like to make those videos like, is this phone worthy of a 1 year upgrade? OnePlus 8 Pro to OnePlus 10 Pro, that's tough.
Hmm.
I don't know I can definitively answer what you have to be looking for to say, yes, that is the upgrade for me, that I am going to trade in a phone or swap a phone or sell a phone.
Hmm.
I mean, at least with the OnePlus 7, you're talking about older, slower camera sensors.
Close to
Thankfully,
end of life cycle kind of
end of life
software
cycle.
support.
Thankfully, I from the people that I have still seen rocking OnePlus 7s, those pop-up periscope selfie cameras have been hanging in there. Like, they
Hmm.
seem to have
Yeah,
gone the distance.
I'm surprised,
Even
but yeah, no.
mine didn't get used super heavy after its first year, but like I can still fire it up and it's still doing great. But it's right in there. You know, like someone on a OnePlus 7 still might be like, "Nah, I'm good.
Yeah, yeah, no,
I'm fine."
this year seems to be like I said. I told my wife, I said, hey, the Note 22 Ultra is coming out. Is this something that you'd be interested? She's like, no, I'm good. The Note 20 Ultra is still good, very strong. It got One UI, it got the latest software running Android 12. There's really not much. I mean, and it has an SD card. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on with the Mac Stripe. Somehow she's having some problems where it wasn't
Oh yeah.
initiating. So I may have to just uninstall Samsung Pay and get it reinstalled again. But I mean, long story short, it's more so the par of course at this point where more companies are, yeah, we'll just wait. We'll see how it goes. So we'll have to see. I hope OnePlus does figure out how their approach is going to be in the future, because for the most part, this may be the only OnePlus device that we see this year. We may see maybe a Nord successor, maybe a couple of Nords, but last year that's what we got. We got the 9 Pro and the 9, and then this year we don't even know about the 10. Right? There's rumors about an Ultra, so I don't know if that ever happens.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. But
And,
I
and
do
you
want
know
to
what?
say, yeah,
I mean, sorry, just to cap that point, and I'll keep it real short. And
no problem.
I wouldn't be upset if folding OnePlus into Oppo meant they took a buy year. They took a year just to kind of fold up the organizations and get them synced up and working together and collaborating more efficiently.
Hmm.
We got like one flagship phone out. Maybe we only get a Nord. You know, again, it'd be like a rebadged Realme. But let's if that's all that makes it to market, so that we can come back to 2023, sort of with a fresh focus on what regions really need what phones. I don't think that would be a bad thing. I,
No,
I, I
no, no.
really
I
feel
do not
more
disagree. Yeah, I think,
companies would benefit from some patience in this
yeah,
market.
yes, absolutely. And I just realized that my camera keeps dropping, and I need to fix my overhead camera. You can't see it in the frame that we are in, but in my
It's
frame,
just dipping in
it
like a
is.
boom mic.
Well, I have it on a boom stand, and the 6400, the A6400 is a heavier body. Hold on, let me show you guys what I mean here. So let me put this in. You could barely see it on your side. It's right above the counter. That little black area here at the top.
Yeah, there it is. It's cute.
That's the camera sensor, the lens, and I keep adjusting it and putting it up and putting it up, and then literally within a day or so, I even have a counterweight bag with my extensive collection of wall chargers that I never use in
Right.
it to try to leverage the weight. But the Sigma lens that I got, which is absolutely nice, I got a nice what's it called? Not portrait, prestige. They have like a
Oh,
boutique. Like
I can't remember their
Sigma
names.
Stigma started to
Yeah.
go fancy with their names. But it's a nice little zoom lens that does the job exactly. It's beautiful and it just looks great on camera. So the problem is with the two and the weight and the fact that I'm not using a real C stand, I'm using a boom mic because the boom mic worked for years. I need to readjust and try to do leverage and try to get it to stay. But yeah, every little bit or so, you'll see it in my frames. It's either I punch in to the point where at some point my videos will be like this, just so that this doesn't show up, or I have to maybe tie it to the ceiling or something. We'll have to figure something out. I may have to
Yeah.
jerry rig it. Hey, Mr. Vergara's in the chat.
Hey.
JV Tech T, man. Hope you're doing well. Forget about it. No. But realistically though, is he a TK with that bouquet? Goodness. Oh my God. No, I seriously, I'm going down a bad rabbit hole when it comes to lenses. I do have, I do appreciate the improvements a really good piece of glass can do to any camera. Like even the E10, this new Sigma lens just did tremendously on it. I was ready to sell it, and then the moment I started using it, I'm like, wait a minute, hold on a second. I can use this. I can make this work. This is my B camera for off or outside of the office. So I'm starting to shoot more and more stuff outside of the
Yeah.
office with that
Although,
and setup. So
have you grabbed what is it? Because I have this Sigma 16 Contemporary.
it's the contemporary. Okay, so this one is the contemporary. Sorry, I wanted to say
So
boutique, but
so have you
yeah.
grabbed the 30 millimeter f1.4?
No, I haven't gone. I haven't gone primes. I've been trying
Okay.
to shoot more
Okay.
versatile lenses
Okay.
at a low. So yeah. So
Okay. So, because
you said Sigma
the
30 f1.4, and that's exactly what the
thir-
first search came up.
30 f1.4, I believe it's on sale for under 300 now,
It
and it
is
is
264.
a ridiculous piece of glass to have an f1.4. The autofocus is like butter. It is,
And it is a Sony E-mount.
so good.
Oh my God, this is gonna break. Okay, it's
I-
only 264 though.
It's only 264. I mean, seriously, I wouldn't be pimping this so hard if it weren't because I have, where is it? It's on my bookshelf right now. So I've got the Micro Four Thirds version, and this has been just a joy to shoot on for the depth of field that I need in my office. That is a ridiculously good buy. That puts it like just slightly ahead of the pricing that we used to have for like the Canon 50 millimeter f1.8 plastic fantastic. Like they used to be like kind of a $120 lens, right? So to be able to land that shallow depth of field, that wide of an aperture on an APS-C sensor is going to look real good.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So you know what? For 264, I can't say no to that. Because the other lens that I picked up for the Sigma it's actually more at a wider range. I think it was like a 16 to 105. It was very much of
Oh, yeah.
and it's an f1.4, but I felt like that one was not 1.4, an f4 on that one. The contemporary one that I got, the 16 to 80, I think 16. No, 18 to 50 is the one I'm using. That's the one that's hanging up from the top. That's a constant f2.8, which really does well for low light, much better than f4. But a 1.4 though, at f1. Okay.
And I mean, obviously on your APS-C, it's gonna look kind of like it's gonna look a little like a 45 millimeter
I think
lens,
it's.
but
I'm trying to see if they
is
have
that?
any. Yeah. Oh my God, that looks nice. That looks like a very good lens.
it's a very good lens.
Oh my God.
It's
okay.
my favorite lens for my G9.
Okay, sold, my friend. You know what? I'm gonna put it in the card right now.
Yes.
I never. I thought once I went full frame, I was never gonna touch Micro Four Thirds or APS-C again. And here I am. I'm back in the game. I'm
right.
back in the. You know what? Oh my God! So it's so the problem. Not the problem. The good thing is that it is actually so affordable, and it is actually on sale, which is weird.
The 30 is like insanely cheap. You could also go to the 16. I think that I just pulled up the Sigma site now. That one's 375. So
It
you
is
needed something
374,
wider.
Yeah, 374 on. I mean, I'm on
So
B&H,
that
of course.
that
Oh,
would
yeah.
look a little bit more like your Sony at a 24. That could look pretty good.
And it's also
just
an
saying.
F1.4.
And it's also an f1.4. Yeah.
Ooh, you know what? And they have so they have a used one. Let me see. Is it a good condition used? At 289, at 298. So for 300 from B&H.
And Bionic Scoop is saying like he had the whole Sigma trio so damn good. And
Yes.
if anyone knows their
Still
lenses, I
therapy.
know Scoop would be able to jump in and say what's up.
And
Oh
we
no,
got-
I just lost
we-
my camera.
We have. And this is it, guys. Thank you for joining us on the show. It was great. Juan Carlos will be.
Oh no. Oh man, my G9 is like toasty. That's like the warmest it's gotten in a while.
That's how we do it, man. No,
I'm gonna go ahead and leave that off for a bit.
yeah. No, I mean, we are kind of don't need another lens. No. So for Aditya, the lenses I'm more like really jumping into right now are more for that might take out and to go outside. It's not going to be for my A camera. My A camera is the the A7 III. This one's going to be my main. It's focused there. These lenses are going to be on the 6400, on the E10. More versatile, easy to go, lightweight bodies, and just overall lightweight carry on for when I go cover shows. The E10 was great for me when I went to MWC, but I felt like I didn't have the right lens kit with it. I've been trying to build up that experience. I think that's why I'm doing it. Hopefully, if there are other trips that we end up going to, otherwise, it'll be taking a lot of B-roll for me, which is not a bad solution to start with at all. Oh, Josh is like, Juan, time for the GH6, and hey, welcome, Juan. How you doing, man? Where are you at, buddy?
We've got the other G9.
Oh,
my angle's all Dutched.
I was gonna. It's okay.
Ah, there we go. That's way better.
See? We make it work.
I can't talk to you because you're on the monitor over there, but yeah, that works.
Just imagine me making faces at you. No, it's one of those. But I will say this: I think we've reached that nice, beautiful.
Yeah, we should probably start shutting this down when my cameras start.
Yeah, when the battery on the camera
off.
is giving us the clue, you read the clue. So it's been an interesting week. There's a lot of things going on. I think Honor also announced an X8. There was another Honor device that kind of announced. Realme announced the Realme Neo 3, Realme GT Neo 3, which I actually got a chance to see at MWC, but it wasn't final, so the device didn't have the camera bump and everything. That's the one that's going to be running their 150-watt charging speed. So it's pushing the limits.
That's cool.
If I'm not mistaken, I think it's running a MediaTek processor, the 8100, which it'll be
so
exciting to be able to
see that 8100.
I want to start seeing MediaTek, that 8000, the 8000, the 9000 series. I want to see those. So still trying to see if I can get my hands on a 9000, the Dimensity 9000, anything. Doesn't matter what it is, anything Dimensity 9000. So
for sure.
I'll be this week. There will be a show on Saturday, so hopefully I will see you guys again on Saturday with the Android Bay. Last week, as you know, we're all swimming in taking pictures with, which we kind of put me on the spot on Monday. I couldn't say I was using this guy to take the pictures of all that. So great experience when it comes to cameras. Hung in there, really nice. I wish there was better telephoto, but that's the conversation for a different day. I'd love to see what you think about that. So
for sure.
I hope you guys do well. I hope you stay safe and be well and enjoy the tech that you're able to get and get the full potential of what they do. We'll be back next week for another episode for the best of our week on the Thursday evening, and of course Monday morning with the SGGQA. Make sure to follow Juan Carlos and go bug him in the chat as I usually try to do. I don't know if I'll be cameoing there anymore, but we'll see. We'll work some stuff.
You
out
can
there.
drop on by. So this next Monday is the last Monday of the month, which is our pajama podcast,
Absolutely.
where I don't keep as strict a news format for the show. So if we end up
pajamas required though. That's what I'm wanting. Because I haven't.
What's hilarious is like I keep making that joke about the pajama podcast. Like literally every one of my podcasts I do in my pajamas. So that's not special. I need to go out and buy some special pajamas
for the pajama
podcast. We'll have to see if we can pull that off this weekend.
And we're all going to be enjoying the brand new iPhone Vivo, so make sure you get that one on the next release. So it's the iPhone 54O,
That's right.
But again, have a great week. Take care. Obviously, connect with us on the socials. Make sure to check out the audio. If you guys are catching it on the replay, we do have a podcast. It does go up within a day or so after the live show is gone. And we're doing well. We're growing slowly but surely. We'll be able to hit up those big numbers and so on. But the main thing is for us to keep the conversation going. So be well. Take care. We'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye for now.
Bam.